Hey, it's me, Jeff Johnson, and my very good friend.
Claude Faitier.
Hey, we're coming to you today to introduce you to something new. New to you, perhaps, us, but not new to us, what we like to do. We love film. We talk about motion pictures all the time. In fact, we've been talking about motion pictures basically as long as we've known each other. And what do? We review films pretty much all the time. It's mostly just about everything we talk about in life finds its way back to a favorite quote or analogy from film. We kind of frame the universe around the films we've seen. And we definitely review films all the time. So what we're going to do here today is let you join in on the conversation. We try to capture our reviews whenever we can. Right now, our views are being captured here on socially isolated videos, which a lot of people had to do right around this time in the first half of the year 2020. But I hope you stick with us for a while. Things around the globe will get better, and we'll be doing this from a beach somewhere, out on a yacht. What do we usually do? Driving back and forth somewhere in a car, or anytime something comes up, Claude calls me, I'll call him, and then we're off to the races. So I look forward to sharing some of the conversations I had with my very best movie reviewing buddy, Claude Faitier.
All right, hello everybody. Yeah, Jeff and I, we definitely long have been friends. We've always talked about movies, and it's something we enjoyed for a long time, and I think somehow or another I think deep down we are along with being movie fans, just a part of us would probably like to be making some movies sometime, and so we'll keep coming up with creative things to do. But yeah, like he says, we've had a very long friendship and saw a lot of movies, agreed on a bunch, disagreed on a bunch. So that's just the way it goes. And welcome on this journey.
So we're going to jump right in because there's so many different films to discuss. And you'll be able to come back and look at reviews we've done in the past and let us know what you think, but whether you agree and disagree and things that you like and things that maybe you want us to see and see how we feel about them and how we compare, because we are known to take a tangent or two in a review. And one of our tangents had us talking about Spike Lee and war movies. And so that's why we decided to take another look at Miracle at St. Anna or Santa Ana. Mm-hmm. And so Claude, you want to kick it off?
All right. Well, The Miracle of Santa Ana was made around 2008, and at Spike Lee's, there was an adaptation. We were following a platoon of soldiers, and they're about to engage in a military maneuvers right by the Serchio River in Tuscany, Italy. And what happens they get ambushed by German soldiers, and 4 soldiers make it across the river into Tuscany, Italy. The strange thing is they can't just retreat because for one reason or another, the commander on duty chooses to ignore chooses to ignore the coordinates that the soldiers gave him, and basically they're not able to come back because the Americans are firing artillery right around their area, so they can't go back. So they have to find a way to take across.
What's the key aspect, though, to their leadership not believing them is that they're all black World War II battalion, and they got caught behind enemy lines, or actually they were able to break through enemy lines. And their leadership couldn't believe that they succeeded maybe where others did, that they had gotten that far.
Yeah, black soldiers could do this, yes.
And so the white leadership just didn't believe that this black platoon would have completed their portion of the mission and broken through the enemy lines in order to be trapped behind those enemy lines.
Yeah, so these soldiers are basically they're in Nazi-occupied Tuscany. One of the soldiers, who's Sam Train, who's sort of like a big teddy bear of a guy, ends up finding this one young Italian kid who's injured, and so they're nursing the kid. They're on the countryside. They want to establish contact with their soldiers. I mean, with the rest of their platoon. But they are trapped in Italy, also hiding from the Nazis, and so so that's the dilemma that they're in. They're I don't know what you would call this, but probably lost behind an enemy lines type of a story. And being black soldiers, they're able to. They have an interesting, perspective because of the treatment they're getting in town. They're not facing the same type of racism that they've experienced in America.
Sure.
And so
they're able to
the
both,
time in the town, although they're under jeopardy,
they're in some cases get to be seen as liberators
and experience some type of freedom.
Right. They get to be seen in some cases as liberators, some cases as fellow respected soldiers against working in consort with our allies. They're seen as real allied partners, whereas then from their own leadership not giving them the same full respect as military people, because they weren't believing that they had gotten this far and had gotten ahead. So you get a storyline of trapped behind enemy lines. How do we return back to safety while also completing, while also facing is an opportunity to complete our mission or even advance our mission, by our unique position. That's the condition of the soldiers we have. But the film does not, begins in a different way, right? The film begins with opening up a mystery.
Yes.
The film opens with what seems to be a homicide mystery and an investigation of what was the basis for the homicide. That was in the trailer, that, we see a very aged black man still working at a bank.
Post office.
I'm sorry. It's a post office as a teller.
Yeah.
So
we see in real time a post office person pulling out a gun.
Yes. Right. Yes. Well, let's just a couple of things. Tangent number one. Let's cover a couple of things. In the year 2020, I think people have forgotten about the old trite statement of going postal. Going postal actually kind of dates us there, Claude. Going postal is actually come and gone as an expression. I would like to believe that it's come and gone in good ways. But it also could just mean that workplace violence now is associated with many more workplaces than the postal service. So it's no longer completely the property of the post office. So it's both not a funny joke anymore for a whack reason.
Yeah.
So only people with gray hair like this even remember the expression going postal. It's kind of the same as expression as a cable guy. In our lifetime, the cable service was both extremely terrible for the installation of cable, then somehow came all the way to they had a motion picture called The Cable Guy, making fun of a psychotic cable television installer, all the way to the point in 2020 now where people don't understand that cable guy is a negative expression and that going postal is also, they just don't know what that means. That having been said, this film was made around the time when going postal still was a thing. Also, I called it a bank only because here's another thing. Sorry, hard tangent. But the people going to the post office and they were doing things like they were buying money orders. Just a small thing. People used to do that. People could do that again. We might need to start doing that again in the 2020s so that we could keep our postal service, because it's needed for thriving, functioning nation, and our nation is suffering right now with institutions not being run well. So coming off of that hard tangent, the film opens with a very, very old black man, and mathematically he'd have to be very old in order for it to fit with our story about World War II. A very, very old black man working at the post office, and a very old white person comes up to the counter, and the black man recognizes him right away, pulls out a gun that he had handy, if I got it right, a German Luger.
Luger.
You know, a handgun clearly taken from a Nazi, or at least popularized as one of a Nazi officer's handgun. They're the only ones that had that kind of gun, and this dude had not. Did he have one here? I think they make it clear it's New York, but it's America.
Yeah,
it's an American post office, and I think it's clear it's New York. And he has his Luger handy, pow, and shoots this guy. He recognizes him, and he shoots him right away. And so it becomes now, you know, we're thrust into a homicide.
You're right.
Of why would this old postal teller shoot somebody dead with an old gun? And then what is the story behind it? So we have a mystery. We have a let us go back in time and find out what events transpired that would pull us forward to this guy shooting his gun. Yeah,
and actually, I'm glad that you pointed out the whole mystery. So the mystery of why he shot this man, with a little later on, where we have a rookie reporter who is his opportunity to tell a story. He's came after all the reporters had asked questions already. So the detective tells him to go with these detectives they're going to go to the man's place. So this could be his, even though he came in late, he still could find something interesting. And so he accompanies these cops to the man's residence. And the mystery has another layer because they find the head of a statue head of a statue that is from Italy. And you come to find out that this is not just some head of a statue, but it is a very significantly important and very valuable head. So again, why did this old man kill someone in the post office and with a German gun? And last but not least, why does he have this super, super expensive statue on his, in his home?
In his modest New York apartment.
Yes.
Just sitting there, and no reason to believe like it wasn't some recent heist. It's been sitting in his apartment a long time. So yeah, it's 2008 Spike Lee joint. An example of Spike kind of stretching out and doing films that you wouldn't expect. Certainly when that came out in 2008, I think that was his first film with any kind of wartime anything in it. If I think I'm right. So that was awesome. If you check the cast, folks, it's worth checking the cast. Here we are, 12 years prior, and everybody on this is on the come up.
Yeah.
Everybody was on the come up at the time, and everyone that you go see will have arrived. Derek Luke as a sergeant. Michael Ealy's, spent far too much time, mostly on television, but in a whole lot of films as the handsome brother. Laz Alonso, also usually the handsome brother who turns out to be good, hardworking. He's handsome, but you should get with him in the Tyler Perry movie because he's the good guy most of the time. Sometimes he's the bad guy. Omar Benson Miller, always the baby face. This guy, they just keep casting him as a high school football player. I guess he'll be 70, and they'll be like, "Put him in, coach."
Yeah.
I'm nearly 300 pounds, 6 foot tall, but I have a baby face stuck on top of it.
Yeah. Sort of like the baby Huey thing happening, but it you know what? It's like he gets the cast, like you said, playing those blind side type of characters. But I had to say his use in the movie. I mean, they definitely sort of played the Gentle Giant element. They gave him some.
It's a perfect use.
He just wasn't a funny sidekick person.
These were young black men who were they signed up or they were drafted. Many were signed up. Again, black men in America still trying to prove themselves to America and the loyalty, having fought in every war for this nation. So he's playing a young soldier, which works fine because, again, he's eternally baby-faced. And with the storyline, he's meant to be a gentle giant, where you find that they rescue a boy, along the storyline, and they refuse to leave the boy behind. And so the boy, they don't speak, I forget which language, I guess it's Italian. They don't speak his language, but the boy keeps calling him his chocolate giant. He's maybe the first black person he'd ever seen. Yeah. And he's amazed by him and wondering, is he a real person? He's his hero. He saved his life, but is he a hero or is he some mythical creature because he's a big chocolate giant? Joseph Gordon-Levitt's in this. John Leguizamo's in this film. Kerry Washington's up in there. Amari Hardwick. I had forgotten all about him being in this film. Okay. Yeah, it's quite a cast. Spike does a very nice job.
Kenneth Michael Williams complete opposite type from Omar, because he was a super scared soldier.
Oh yeah. And again, 2008. I'm trying to think. 2008. I guess he was on The Wire at that time.
Yeah, he would have been on The Wire. I have to look it up. Yeah, he was on The Wire.
So. And all these folks on the come up.
And another little gem of a performance, and it's one of the most, probably most hated scene in the movie. You got John Hawkes at the beginning of his career playing the owner of the diner that refused to serve the soldiers when they come into the rest, his little restaurant during their training, when they're reflecting on how the United States discriminated against them. And he always had that sense of menace. And you saw it there as he was quick to pull out the gun and, menace them. And it's just, I have to say, Spike is definitely on top of his casting.
Yes.
Love him or hate him, one thing's for sure. If you're in the Spike Lee movie, you are on your way to some type of stardom because he knows how to pick them.
He knows how to pick them. He knows how to pick people who are talented, knows to work with them. And there's no loving and hating Spike Lee. It's all love to Spike Lee. There's various degrees of there's criticism of Spike Lee's films, like we're critical of all films, especially including the films we love. We're like love, and then this piece and that piece of a film we hated. Spike is more. In fact, the Spike piece part makes it more Love Like Family, which, as everyone knows, which means he's definitely gonna get talked about because it's Love Like Family. But this was, we were talking about this in comparison to the Five Bloods, which was just recently released. And we're talking about, how is Spike Lee in doing war movies? And I think that's how it came up for us to have this conversation. And I think what I'll go ahead and say, and then you can say from your side, from my perspective, I like Miracle at Santa Ana better. I think Miracle at Santa Ana did a better job of covering, the three different kinds of films that we have here. The mystery, the flashback mystery. Why did this old man kill this person? It thrusts us into the action right away, which is what a film should do. It thrusts you into the action of this murder, and it's got a historical mystery behind it. And what historical mystery could it possibly be? We're thrown into World War II. Awesome. That's what films want to do. You want to keep turning the page if it were a book, right? It's just pulling you in. You thought it was enough that a postal worker went crazy and shot a person, and there's some mystery behind it. And then you're pulled into, we're pulled into a period piece, World War II movie following black soldiers. And then we get to have the whole dynamic of black soldiers interacting again with the villagers. I'm using all the wrong terms, all the wrong war terms. People in their countries who are the occupied persons, right? Who are in their nation that's being overrun by Germans. The black people can't hide; they have to be hidden, right? The Germans are taking over this land, so the people want to resist. And then yet you deal with black soldiers dealing with white American soldiers and the condition that they have to operate under, and that even though they're fighting for their nation and fighting for freedom, they're being treated poorly still by white Americans, even overseas. They have people who are occupied, they're both liberating, but also some of them are trying to liberate themselves, so they have to treat us as peers, partisans, maybe is the term they use if they were helping the French, but in this case,
the partisans, I think they were fighting against the Nazis, and then there's another issue in terms of who's really fighting against the Nazis and who's
who might not be,
who's
right?
a turncoat.
Who might be turncoats within that other nation,
yeah.
right? Within that other nation. Now, black people got enough issues. The fact that we're fighting for a nation that was never fully against us, even our fellow soldiers and even our fellow captains and leaders. But then, of course, in any circumstance of war, and including this particular circumstance of war, like you said, just because we're liberating these people doesn't mean that there's some folks within those who are being liberated who are ready to be liberated. Good thing black people have Harriet Tubman, your T-shirt, to notice that, hey, not everybody is trying to be liberated, but they all have to be told, we out. They all have to be told, it's going to be liberty or it's going to be your death. That's the black version of that state national anthem. You're going to be free. Harriet Tubman had to maintain to them, or you're going to die, but you ain't going back or selling us out. So black people know all about the fact that maybe amongst the occupied people, there might be some folks who are set to be liberated and willing to go to the other side, to go to the side who thinks who might win, to survive. So you had all those elements of a really an excellent wartime movie, a really excellent wartime movie, sprinkled with this mystery of like, oh, okay, we're going to follow these guys' lives, and it's going to stitch its way back to our beginning story, right? Yeah. It's got to resolve itself somehow. It's going to explain our mystery. We don't know exactly how, but somehow it's going to explain our mystery of why he shot this guy, and also, what's so special about this head. I liked it better than The Five Bloods, because it did a better job of covering those three different types of stories: the mystery, the Trapped Behind Enemy Lines war movie, and the challenges of black soldiers in America, trying to survive. And of course, the third part really is they're trapped behind enemy lines and resolving their mission. The mission being resolved. Is there some aspect of their mission that can be executed while they try to get from enemy lines? Let's be clear. We've watched a whole bunch of films, Claude, good, bad, and ugly, where the whole movie is just, I'm trapped behind enemy lines. Can you please get me out of here? I mean, that's a film all by itself. That's a whole genre. Oh, escape. And they try to rescue you. Can you get out? Do you make it out from enemy lines? I did. Yay. He covered all three things, and I think well. Whereas with The Five Bloods, we talked about before, there were two things. There was the emotional component of returning back to Vietnam for black Vietnam soldiers. And then there was the, it's not a heist film. You described it more accurately than me, but it's it's kind of a heist film. The lost treasure. Is the lost treasure story and getting the treasure back. Those two things weren't done nearly as smoothly in my mind as Santa Ana. But what do you think?
All right. Yeah. No, thank you for reminding me, because I was because I remember I was that shy of making a comment that maybe war movies weren't his forte, but I could definitely say, looking back at The Miracle of Santa Ana, that I was glad that I was wrong, because when I was because the thing in the back of my mind was, why didn't this movie stick out more to me? I just sort of remember it being an interesting movie. Looking back and looking back at it, all the elements, like you said, sort of like the setup of the mystery sort of had a couple of these hooks, or sort of like, in a way, sort of like noirish hooks. Something happened now, we're going to go do the flashback. But, just looking at the war element of the story, a lot of nice touches to it. Even I mean, even before I start with that, the very beginning when they show the guy, what's his name? Corporal Negro's watching TV and he's looking at the John Wayne clip. Now, that's a scene in itself, but what's really interesting is that the scene somehow sets the tone. He's watching a part of The Longest Day, and it's a very emotional scene where apparently American or Allied soldiers were hanged. And John Wayne is completely horrified, and he said, cuts them down. And, the irony is that you had, again, sort of like a white person getting lynched, John Wayne being the one who says to get them down. And Legrand's looking at this, and he said, well, we were there too, Duke. Just commenting on the fact that all these movies are about the war, and never, ever do you hardly see, a black soldier in any of those wars. I mean, maybe you're lucky if you saw one, maybe like Woody Strode, or maybe, Harry Belafonte or some, in one little role or something. But our story had been completely not there.
That's
and
exactly
the whole
right.
idea of him being horrified with the lynching, and it's just like, oh, it's interesting. Why isn't our country have a little more connection with the whole lynching thing when it's done to us? So the scene, going through what we're going through right now had a little more of a kick to it for me.
Yeah. Watching again now, today, puts in more bite. And more specifically, from a historical perspective, lynching black soldiers, that white supremacists couldn't stand the notion of blacks coming back from any war in uniform, and they would lynch a black soldier in uniform. There's no respect for that. All of this fake respecting of the flag. It's why, for anyone watching this who just doesn't understand why somehow black people don't have the same reverence to the flag, is that no, they lynched black people in their military uniforms.
Yes.
F a flag.
Yeah. And I didn't
soldiers
even,
fought under the flag.
Because I was just even making parallels in terms of his reaction towards lynching.
Right. His reaction to it, but there's more parallels to that.
Documented cases where soldiers were riding on the road and they got shotgunned in the face by passing cars, just in their uniform.
Again, screw a flag. The soldiers who fought under the flag in a uniform, they were being killed and lynched in their uniform. That's just more reverent to us, or in this case, more sacrilegious that it would occur. And it, of course, did occur, and it occurred after each war. It occurred after World War II. It occurred most definitely after World War I. Again, why this film strikes you so hard now is just because at the time that we're doing this recording with you all, it's just after Juneteenth. It's just after a belligerent president chose to do a rally on Juneteenth in Tulsa, Oklahoma, near where the Oklahoma bombing of Black Wall Street was, the Greenville neighborhood, an affluent black neighborhood full of recently returned World War I vets. Just about roughly 100 years from where we stand now when we're recording this thing for you all to watch. It's why a story like this is prescient, because Miracle of Santa Ana is World War II. Well, World War I, they were killing black folks, black returned soldiers in uniform. And if you roll all the way back, it's not all the way back. There's just so many backs to go to in America. There's a good 400 years of back going to, right? The 400 years of chattel slavery executed by English speakers. We can say 400, and then you can go all the way back to 1492, because of course Columbus needed Africans to navigate to America in the first place. And the Spaniards tried to establish slavery, but were ineffective at it. So there were still black people catching hell. Just because the Spaniards weren't good enough to pull it off doesn't mean that we didn't suffer them practicing enslavement. But all those 400 years, if you go even all the way back then to, I'm just going to pick another set of soldiers, that after the Civil War and the Civil War was won, there were so many uniformed former slave black soldiers running around southern states that the southern leadership was like, we're not having that. We cannot have that.
Yeah.
They can't have blacks walking around triumphant in the streets like specific cities like Charlotte and places like that. And so then all sorts of laws were being executed, all sorts of policy was being executed against it. Well, we got to start imprisoning blacks as quickly as possible because the 13th Amendment allows that. We can put them back into slavery if we can violate them, if we can get them arrested for something, loitering. Because, hey, the war's over. They're not being paid anymore by the government. They don't have a job or salary, so they don't have a job. So arrest them for loitering, and loitering's a crime. And then, of course, after I arrest you and put you in prison, then you'll have a job because you'll be on a chain gang. This is the history of a military, of black people serving the nation in uniform and then finding themselves in these circumstances. And in this movie, Miracle of Santa Anna, to have him watching, John Wayne seeing a lynching, those types of lynchings occurred after World War II, they occurred after World War I, they occurred after the Civil War. There's no excuse for John Wayne to not know, and that's what our man was saying about it. Is like, yeah, we were there too at World War II, yes, which is the basis for this film, but being shocked by American soldiers being lynched. Yeah, only shocked by white American soldiers being lynched.
Yeah, yeah. And you know what? Now you just said that. That reminded me of another thing. I had read this book by Bernard Gordon, who had been a blacklisted screenwriter and producer who had to move to Mexico and work in Europe. And because he couldn't work in America, he was, that goes into another, man, we were getting really historical in this beast, but let's do it. But he basically, the production company managed to get John Wayne to work on a movie called Circus World. And there was one moment that just sort of, made his blood turn cold. And it was when John Wayne was at this cafe, and a bunch of black GIs came up to him, and they were all happy to meet him. They were like, "Oh man, this is great. This is John Wayne. Oh man, this is the big American movie star." Blah 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 blah. And and he just seemed pleasant enough. And he just sort of smiled and everything. And he said that when the soldiers were away, John Wayne basically told the people he was with that he couldn't stand fucking niggers. Apparently that's what he said. And this was the Duke. And it's just,
like
I was thinking about it now that you were talking about it. So yeah, I mean, but anyway.
Like Public Enemy said, MF him and John Wayne.
Yeah. There you go. There you go.
So you want to hear the stories, this was an excellent opportunity. And so was The Five Bloods, because we gave a favorable review of The Five Bloods. Yeah. I just like Miracle of Santa Anna better. In fact, see The Five Bloods first, because it's hot off the presses and it's new. It's closer in time, covering Vietnam, and then jumping forward to now and Vietnam vets going back to Vietnam, and then watch Miracle of Santa Anna, so that you can move in a good, better, best direction, right? And you can do that compare and contrast. You can say, why is it that these stories and these experiences, even though they're being portrayed in a fictional motion picture, but why is it that these stories have to have the similar theme? See this thing, see the thread of the dramatic theme that gets carried through in Black war stories.
Oh, so let me just add this, because I'm gonna instead of saying I'm not claiming to reclaim my time, I'm gonna say expanding our time, because I think everything we said is a benefit. So going back to comparing the two movies, I definitely I like the plot structure of Miracle at Santa Anna. One strength I think that The Five Bloods had was, to a certain degree, the characters of the men seem like genuine. They seem like, I guess, a little more organic, or guys that you definitely would see, at a family barbecue or something like that. So the casting in that was they would, to me, they seem more like more well-rounded, just characters, genuine characters. Those of you who go to family barbecues, these would be the people talking about the Vietnam War or whatever. They talk. They have the, how they go back into their whole the gait, the way that they hold themselves,
sure.
The whole thing. That being said, yeah, definitely, I like, yeah, again, the characters. I like the performance. I thought the characters in The Miracle at Santa Ana, I think they were pretty good characters to me. They were a little more, I would say, in a way, caricatures. Some of them sort of seemed a little bit like a type, but the actors brought a lot of, brought some substance to them. And then going back again to the, war about the, war not be quote unquote, addressing the reason why I came up with this idea. I actually thought that the beginnings, the setup, the war scenes were excellently done. So, the scene where they have to go across the Serchio River is, the ambush scene is tense.
Yes.
The Nazis coming to, into the town when the soldiers are incredibly outnumbered. I thought it was definitely, all of it, definitely well done. So I was glad to be wrong, about that. Just overall, excuse me. Okay, just overall, yeah, there were a lot of cool, a lot of cool things in this movie, and but to me, the story to me was just a little, the plot made a lot more sense to me. The plot elements he used to introduce the story, I thought were very strong. Flashbacks, like the whole situation with when they went to the restaurant to get the ice slushes and facing discrimination in the United States, I thought was very good. And there were a lot of things that Spike Lee does, very, that does strongly,
Yeah.
He, yeah, I don't know if it's the second movie where he, in a way, sort of alluded to. I'm sorry, I'm going all over the place. Sort of alludes to Nazis getting their comeuppance. The Inside Man. There was sort of an element of these Nazis getting their comeuppance,
Yes.
and then we see the Nazis, they're fighting against the Nazis in this movie.
That's true.
We've always talked about, however, whenever he dealt with Italian characters, he seemed on the point. So the fact that he would take
He knows how to write
World War II
Italian,
story,
even in
the
Italy.
Italian village just seemed like it was right up his skill set. Like this would be the one. This would be the one sort of like World War II story that he could definitely tell.
Spike Lee can do Italians.
Yes.
What can I say?
Yeah.
The real question is, how come folks aren't, just clamoring to get him to do, other films strictly about Italian families? Because Spike does, right. First, I thought it was he could do Italian New York families, and I thought that's all he could do. But here we go.
Yeah.
Italians in Italy. He does that well too.
And then he also touches on the racism that they faced, and we talked a little bit about that, so I'm not going to keep repeating myself. So I preferred, again, comparing the two, I preferred this one a little more. I guess one of the reasons I had trouble sort of keeping it in mind is that there was a bunch of war movies that came out that that the bar was set very high. You had Saving Private Ryan, which sort of brought the hyper realism to Normandy invasion.
Yes.
You've had the Thin Red Line, which was sort of like a more of a poetic type of a movie. Not too much about World War II, Vietnam. You had the sort of Platoon. So you sort of, the war movie is a lot of tropes, and so I think when someone's doing a war movie, they have a very impressive body of work that they have to do to make theirs different.
Sure.
So I think Spike Lee made I think he made a very good movie. Looking back on it, I appreciate it more looking back on it, but I guess the reason it didn't come to me before is that I didn't think it was, spectacular, but looking at the small things, it doesn't have to be. You don't have to hit a grand slam all the time. But this was a very, I thought it was a very good movie. It worked the way like an amazing short story sort of adapted into a war movie, but it wasn't a short story. It was a novel, but it had that charm to it. Had that element to it.
Yeah, you make a very good point about how many things it had to live up to. You know, you had the series, you know, Band of Brothers. I mean, you know, which was, you know, a couple years prior. But again, you had all this body of work of World War II films that are truly excellent and relatively recent. Relative to that film, how is your film different? How's it standing out? Is it just standing out because it's a Spike Lee joint? Yes, it's different, and yes, it's a Spike Lee joint. You know, all those things, and again, you know, an excellent example of, you know, of a very pleasant surprise from Spike, right? I just didn't cross my mind that he would do a story like this, and the poster focuses on the World War II piece, so that when you hit at the beginning with the kind of mystery to be solved, that's a nice little twist to throw on top of that. And you know, the poster and the trailer kind of gives you a band of brothers, but a band of black brothers. But then we find there's more to do that about their mission and their interaction with the folks in Italy. And like I said, Spike he's good with people in general, and then teasingly, he's good with Italians. It's just true. He just is. The dialogue's great.
The poster where that has a little boy in it, one can probably come to mind. You know,
Yes.
Life is Beautiful, which was an Academy Award movie about a little boy. So
yes, that's one of the posters.
So that was So
right, obviously they make that promotion to market to certain aspects, and we covered that before. We really don't talk about poster art. We're gonna have to do that one day. We talk about, I have very strong feelings about trailers, and trailers that are done well, trailers that are done misleading. Trailers are done misleading on purpose because they know the film sucks, so they just give you everything they can to make it look good, and then get you in there, and then you're like, this is nothing to do with the trailer. We don't really talk about poster art too much, but you're right. Poster art changes a lot. Like when it was made is the most significant thing about it. And to your point, that poster art with the little boy pulls you into another successful, serious film. And then the one with the four guys, of course, is pulling you into Band of Brothers, which was like 7 years earlier. But anyway, it was awesome. And I was just going to try to say the fact that Spike was really, Spike has really shown his skill sets, right? He's been really flexing his whole career. If you say, well, he was showing his stuff, if you go back and look at his body of work, he shows his stuff like a lot, right? Yeah. He does lots of different things. I was struck by how many music videos he did and live concerts he did. And then he did Kings of Comedy, which I had forgotten. I think I'm right about that. He did Kings of Comedy. He did.
He directed it.
He did a whole bunch of live action. The Kings of Comedy, Spike. It's a live action concert film. Where how does that relate to his capabilities in any way, right? That's what what hit my brain. Yeah. And then when he does The Inside Man, I was just like, this what? Yeah. This ain't a Spike Lee joint. What? Huh?
Yeah. I mean, I think because the Inside Man would have been sort of like his first genre movie, and this would have been his second genre movie.
I mean, it's just totally not
self-inspired.
It's totally not the kind of film that you'd expect from him, and it was terrific in every way that you should have already expected from him. That you get this little bank. It's not even a heist film technically. I mean, it is, but it isn't. Heist films are about the planning and the stakeout and assembling your team and then putting all of your things together. And then really good heist films include the protagonist is the detective, and the really good ones, the protagonist is the detective who's getting close to figuring them out while they're putting their plan together. Their plan's coming together, and protagonist is getting closer and closer and closer to them. Heat.
Okay.
Closer and closer and closer. Yeah. And then they're like,
the only thing about The Inside Man was the fact that the character kept saying that this was like the perfect crime or whatever.
Right.
And
it was a fait accompli.
I don't need someone to lecture that. I don't need that. And I would
just rather
I'd rather just be left in the dark and realize that something is brilliant.
Right.
So just
That's
like,
true.
for example, and again, a different type of movie, but in Sexy Beast, when they just sort of leave a little breadcrumbs, the guy is walking, guys walking, out of the bank, and they make notice that there's this, that he's walking by a steam house, and then when you see the heist, and I was like, this is what they did, because I mean, you see the drilling, you see all this stuff, and then you realize where they drilled it. You're like, oh mother, this is how they did it, and that's and one should not know what the plan is until they tell you, and just having that whole, I mean, anyway, that's a high bar. He didn't
tell it all to you, but the fact that he was so cocky that I always get everything perfectly right.
Yeah,
blah, 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 blah.
I didn't need to hear it. I would rather seen what happened and said, oh, this was what was really happening. Oh, damn, So, yeah, but I mean, it was fine. It was one of those moments where he's sometimes a little too talky, like the beginning of Bamboozled, when he's saying the definition of satire, and it's just like,
yes. There's a whole bunch of things like that in Bamboozle.
Yeah,
which is back to what you're saying is that we love Spike. We have plenty to criticize because he's family. We're gonna talk about, because you're family. There's plenty of things for us to talk about. And the thing that I like to talk about the most about Spike, there's two. One happens to around a certain amount of floating, which sadly he gave us the floating and the Five Bloods, but he held on as long as he could. He said, "Can I have him float down the street?" No, you cannot have them float down the street. No, there's no time that the floating down the street effect is ever liked by this guy right here. No, Every time you do it, this is how I feel about it. Spike, love you, hate the float. Hey, Spike, watch this. Did you like that? No, neither do I.
Yeah,
no,
sometimes you almost get through the end of the movie and it's like, it got put in there. So,
and the second thing, he's really not gonna like me after this. Don't always like the soundtrack. No, I don't. I like the songs on the soundtrack, but like the atmosphere music. No, I don't. But when he did the Inside Man, that was getting close to, because he played genre music for Inside Man, almost too much and a tick too loud. Sorry, I know that you're the director and not the sound guy. And the sound guy, again, I don't know you guys personally. I'm not trying to hurt your feelings. Love you. We love you. Too loud. First time getting the music close to being right. And it was genre music, right? It was music that fit the thing. We're playing the trumpet because we have detectives and they're cops from a major city. So therefore, we're gonna play some trumpet. Are you gonna play trumpets? Are you, Spike? Are you gonna play trumpets because there's cops and it's a cop movie? Are you? Oh. And you're about our age and you lived through the 70s. And if there's cops and they're in the city, then the sound should be, play it with me. So like, yay, A+ for playing genre music, C-, it's passing grade, C-. We're playing that particular music, a tick too loud. But nonetheless, I love the film. It's love. There's no hating Spike. We love Spike. But we have criticisms. Hey, Spike, watch. You watching me? Oh, I'm sorry. Did you like that? Neither do I. No. and he gave us the float down the street even in that film.
Yeah.
I did like the punchline at the end with the malt liquor. We went really far on this tangent. The malt liquor, the bomb malt liquor.
Oh yeah. Bamboozled. Yeah. No,
not Bamboozled. Not Bamboozled. That was the end. Remember, because his girlfriend's, his woman's brother was living with them for a while. He was taking care of her, and he passed out on the couch. But malt liquor.
Wait, are you talking about Bamboozled or which one?
No, we're still talking about the Inside Man.
Oh, the Inside. Okay.
Denzel Washington's character is such a good guy.
Okay.
Or his woman's that awesome that he lets his brother-in-law. I think that's right. Pass out on the couch with his
You
drink.
know what? I don't remember that, but yeah, I'll take your word for it.
Which has nothing to do with the film review because this is what we do. And so please,
yeah.
you know, if you enjoy.
Talking about endings, though, we want to talk about endings, and this Miracle of Santa Ana, the whole thing by the beach, that did not work for me. I was expecting him to start drinking some 7-Up and somebody going, ha, 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 crisp and clean, no caffeine. Ha, ha. You know, just, you know, I just would have liked to have had him just sort of like meet the boy again. And I don't know what the beach and the white sand and welcome to the islands. I don't know what that had to do with the story. So, but anyway, love the movie though. Love the movie.
So if you love this, this is what we do. If you love this, let us know what you think about it. Let us know that you're watching this and some of the other reviews that we've done. Let us know what some of the reviews you'd like us to do. Because we love film, and we know you love film. So we want you to join in on the conversation. So until next time, this is me, Jeff Johnson.
And Claude Fatier.
We'll see you next time.